and tell myself I don't care what he is right there. But I'm not going to do that. I'll save that for last resort. Let's stick with letters if we can. I see something in the second premise that we know at this time. Find it. Anybody? It's a real obvious one. What?
The H and the I, the wedges. False.
Well, it's a horseshoe. You're talking about this?
Oh, yeah.
It's a horseshoe. Any questions about it? Look, if you have any questions about any truth value we're sticking up there, you need to ask if you don't get it. I mean, we're explaining most of them, but if we don't because I or somebody thinks it's obvious and you don't get it, you need to ask.
So then the other wedge is false?
They're not wedges, they're horseshoes.
Horseshoe? On the antecedent of the horseshoe?
That one right there?
Yeah.
What must it be?
False?
Why? Tell me about that and that.
You have to preserve it.
Because of the truth value table.
We're trying to preserve a true horseshoe whose consequent is false. The only way that could be done is if the antecedent is false as well. But that tells us more in that premise. What? Somebody over here?
The the antecedent is true and the G is false.
Anybody not understand that move? Okay, well, does everything add up to a true horseshoe? That's a false horseshoe, that's a false horseshoe, and those make that one true. That's good. We're good to go there. But I think I need to transfer some truth values at this time. Do you agree? F and G. F is true. G is false. Yes?
The dot, it has to be false to make both antecedent and consequent. Give the horseshoe the only true value. And if the dot is false, the first conjunct has to be false.
That's right. We're trying to preserve a false dot.
But there can be
One side is known to be true. That other side better not be true, right? That would be a true dot. Well, the left-hand conjunct of this dot is the wedge. So it's the wedge that must be false.
there is no false.
That's where you find you need to pay attention to something that does not justify a truth value that's already assumed. There's no way that wedge can be false, right? I don't care what you stick in for E. One side of a wedge is true, that wedge is true. So this is where it ends, this particular procedure. You should have noticed that on several occasions we have some choice. I think we've had some choice about what truth values to assign. If not, we sure will soon. And it's up to you, how you want to proceed. Well, from that it should be obvious that different students might find a contradiction, if there is one, in different places in the argument form. Our strategy led us to find it here. May have been found somewhere else, but it'll be found. Questions about that one? think I'm going to have to break this one up in 2 columns. So we're continuing up here because it's kind of long. Somebody who has a book, make sure I'm copying this right. Guys, J's look a lot like I's. So that's first premise, second premise, third premise, fourth premise, conclusion, right? Well, let's read some stuff here. Anybody want to read that first premise? I dare you.
I'll try.
Okay.
So if both J and K, then if L, then M.
Yep, if both J and K, then if L, then M. How about this one?
It's not, right?
Go.
Oh boy.
Go.
Not if K, then not M.
That one's easy. Okay, let's begin. Or does anybody want to come up and be in the movies?
Is that another premise?
What?
For part, yeah.
It was too long to put in one column because I need space on it for truth values. So first premise, second premise, third premise, fourth premise, conclusion. Anybody ready to show us what you got? Yes? Sure. You're not just going to copy out your notes, you're going to do it afresh, right?
Well, am I allowed to have my little cheat sheet?
Sure.
Okay. Then I'll do.
I'll be like the sports color person.
Sports. What's the sports color person?
The person who has witty banter during the game.
Oh, okay.
Not the analyst, the color commentator.
Okay.
She's going to begin by assuming the argument for him to be invalid. And that means no. That's a therefore sign. Yes. She has assumed the argument for him to be invalid. Now she's searching for some symbol whose truth value she is certain of. And she finds one in the conclusion. She's going to circle that false under the curl, show that she's done. Now she's searching for other occurrences of J. She's transferring the truth value T. And now she begins her search again. Some symbol whose truth value she's certain of. I see several of them. Don't look at the whole thing. Look at one line at a time and see if you can find something. Don't try to take it all in. Just look at one line at a time.
Okay.
She finds the horseshoe must be false because the negation of the horseshoe is true. And now she's going to try to preserve the false horseshoe, noting that the antecedent J is true. That means no, yes. That means the curl has to be false, and that makes L true. Now she's going to circle the T under the curl to show she's done with that premise and transfer
That.
the truth value T to that other L there. And now we begin the search again. Some symbol whose truth value we're certain of. I would look in the third premise if I were.
Okay.
That's right. Why don't you step aside and show us there? Aside. There you go. All right. Noting that the negation of the horseshoe is true, that horseshoe has to be false, and that opens up that premise. We now know that no, yes. Take that T away from under the N for a moment. Okay, because at this point, that's what we know, that the antecedent K has to be true and the consequent curl has to be false. And then we determine that the N has to be true. And we're going to circle, there you go. And she's transferring the truth value T to the other end.
And the,
Where'd that K come from? You transferred that?
yeah.
Okay.
So for these both to be T.
The conjunction of J and K has to be true. No. We only circle the
Smaller
symbol.
circle.
No.
Okay. Okay, so if that's true, then
You do know what that horseshoe has to be. Yes. Why? Because we're trying to preserve a true horseshoe whose antecedent dot is true. That consequent can't be false because that would be a false horseshoe. So now M must be true. And we're going to circle that. There you go. You're going to transfer M's truth value. And now the curl of M must be, the curl of M must be, and now we've just completed assigning truth values for every symbol in that premise. So we pause to make sure that they do in fact justify our initial assumption that that horseshoe is true. Do they?
no.
No, because N, the antecedent, is true and the curl is false. That would be a false horseshoe. Therefore, this assignment is not possible. Wasn't that fun? Thank you.
Thank you.
One more before our break? Are we picking it up? I'm going to go to a different section. I could, any of these exercises that have symbolic arguments can be used for this procedure. Oh, those are good. Where are they? Sorry, I'm looking for one in particular. There it is. If you're interested, it's on page 386, number 6. I'm going to break this up into 2 columns again. Let's try our hand at reading our tri-bar. Who wants to give the first premise a go? Anybody remember the tri-bar? Go.
A, if and only if, either B or C.
Yep. If and only if, all together, right when you come to the tri-bar. Okay, now this is deceptively simple. It's going to go down quickly. So does anybody want to come up and just try it, cold? It's real easy, this one. You know when a tri-bar is true? When is a tri-bar true?
The antecedent is true and consequent as well.
Well, they're not called antecedent and consequent, and that's not right either. When?
Yeah.
And they're both the same.
When the components on each side of the tri-bar have the same truth value. That means both true tri-bar, both false, true tri-bar. You want to come up and do this again?
Well, if we start at the conclusion, don't we know automatically that it's impossible for it to be false?
Huh? No. Why?
Never mind, maybe I copied my paper wrong.
Impossible for a wedge to be false?
Never mind, I copied the paper wrong. Plug it.
Who wants to take us into break? Come up and knock this out. I'll help by yelling at you while you're doing it.
Yeah, that's helpful.
I'm from the San Kinnison School of Teaching.
Who's saying
Oh,
this?
God.
I got it.
What year was that?
Anybody? Thank you. Len. Nobody wants to do this?
On the beginning.
Yeah, it's a real easy one. It goes right down.
Because you transfer the values right away and start with the conclusion.
The initial assumption of invalidity. That means false conclusion. True premises. And now we look. I see 2. Okay, yeah, that's a good place to go. Yeah, do A. A must be false, and we're going to circle that true curl. Now we're going to transfer A's truth value. And one more. And now we continue our search. Conclusion's a good place to go. If we have a false wedge, both the disjuncts must be false. We circle that truth value. Transfer those to B and C. There's a whole bunch of them. C is false there. B is false there. C is false there. And now just work on one premise at a time. That wedge has to be false. Now, does that preserve a true tribar? Yes, it does.
Yes.
Yeah, it does. Now, let's go to the second premise. That wedge has to be false. Does that preserve a true tribar?
Yes.
Good. That wedge has to be false. That's a true tribar, and we're done, just like that. See? In that. Bless you. All right, it's a good time for a break. Let's take 15.